Hi, welcome to the Simple Weight Loss Podcast. I'm Christina, qualified nutritionist, food coach, and mum of two. If you're a busy mum who wants straightforward, no-nonsense weight loss advice without all the complicated science talk, or you just want to learn more about health and nutrition in a way that's easy to understand, then you're in the right place. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's really important when it comes to losing weight and changing your habits, and that is your mindset. I don't think people appreciate how important this is if you want to be successful and make meaningful change in your life. So it doesn't even have to be about losing weight. It's really how you approach any kind of big changes you want to make. There's an epidemic of yo-yo dieting, and traditional diet culture fails 95% of people. Most diets actually work short term if you stick with them for long enough. They do work. If you listen to my first episode, I spoke all about this, about sticking with things long enough to be successful. If you missed it, I'll share a link in the show notes of this episode. Research shows that only about 5% actually keep the weight off after 5 years. So 5 years on from dieting. That's really not a lot of people when you consider how many there would be on a diet at any given time. I have been one of those people who was unsuccessful over and over again and regaining the weight after yet another failed diet. Well, we keep thinking we failed, but maybe it's the whole approach that's broken. I learned recently that the average person tries 126 diets in their lifetime. So at some point you've got to ask, is it me that's a problem, or is it the diet that's a problem, the way we approach diets? Because 126 diets is insane. That's years of your life spent in restriction cycles instead of actually living and enjoying your life and enjoying what you're eating. And think about how much headspace that takes up. You might be calculating calories at restaurants, or stressing before going on a holiday because you think you're going to gain the weight all back again, or skipping dinners because you can't eat that right now. Studies have shown that dietitians think about food every 6.5 minutes. Like every 6 minutes. Imagine what else you could be thinking about and focusing on. As a mum, you've already got such a huge mental load. Why would you want to add to that? We need to try reducing it, not increasing it. And when you're going through this yo-yo dieting cycle, it's not just losing weight that's at stake. That's not the only thing that's happening, but you're potentially affecting your relationship with food, how you see yourself, your body, and even your self-worth as well. And chronic dieting is linked to high rates of disordered eating, depression, and also more weight gain in the long term. This is not somewhere that you want to end up. If you think about the bigger picture, you might be trading years of being able to enjoy food and feeling good in your body for a temporary number that will probably bounce back anyway. So trust me, it's not worth it. Been there and done that, and it's not fun just seeing the weight creep back on because the diet is over. Diets are designed as temporary interventions. The goal of, the goal of improving your health and accepting your body, this requires permanent change. So if you want to achieve meaningful change in your life, you need to learn the new skill necessary to get there. There's not really any other way around it. If you think about it, every diet has an endpoint. 8 weeks, to get to your goal weight, or we'll do this until summer and then we'll, have our bikini body, or maybe you're counting down to a wedding, but your body doesn't stop existing after 8 weeks. You need something that's going to work on a boring old Tuesday when you've got zero motivation. And I have said this before, and I'll probably say it a lot, but before you start another diet, you need to ask yourself, can you eat this way when you're stressed or exhausted, when you're celebrating something, when you're grieving or traveling? If you can't, then it's not a sustainable approach. The other thing to keep in mind with dieting is that when you're on something, like you say you're on a diet, then that means you can fall off it. And the on-off switch is what creates this restriction and binge roller coaster. So instead of identifying yourself as someone who is on a diet, yet again, you need to start seeing yourself as someone who eats well all the time, or majority of the time. People who eat well long term, they don't just think of it as this phase that they're on. It's just how they eat. There's plenty of flexibility and no drama. You go out for a nice dinner with friends or family, it's not something that even crosses your mind as something that's potentially going to derail your progress. There has been research that's shown that severe restriction actually messes with your hunger hormones. So your body produces more ghrelin, which makes you hungry, and less leptin, which is what tells you you're full. And this hormonal disruption can last for years, even after you stop the dieting cycle. So your body literally can't tell the difference between whether or not you're on a diet or it's a famine. And if you jump from one diet to the next, your hormones never get the signal that the famine is over. They just stay in this crisis mode, making you hungrier and making it harder to feel satisfied as well. And this is why you keep having those screw up moments. You eat one cookie when you weren't supposed to. So now you might as well just eat the whole packet. And so you do eat the whole packet. And then you think, oh, it's Thursday. I'll just start again on Monday because I'm going out on the weekend. Does that sound familiar? So this pattern keeps people trapped for years because there's a complete disconnect. Your body's in famine mode and hormonally you're driven to look for calories while your mind's in diet mode, trying to restrict and control you. So your brain and your body are fighting each other instead of actually working together. And that's exactly why nothing's sticking. So if you get your mindset right, back to the topic, if you get your mindset right, that's half the battle. And it's the half that everyone seems to ignore. So here's what I've learned over the years. You can have the perfect meal plan, you can have the best workout routine, all the right information, and you think you're going to nail it, but you still end up failing because your head's not in the right place. Most diet programs, they'll give you 100% of the tactics, but none of the mindset work. And then they wonder why you lack willpower. It's not about willpower. It's that you're trying to build a house on a foundation that just doesn't exist. And research actually backs this up. There are studies on self-efficacy. So this is basically believing that you can do something, and it shows this is one of the strongest predictors of whether someone sticks with behavior change. If you don't believe it's possible for you, your brain will find every excuse to prove yourself right. So stop seeing yourself as someone who's trying to be healthy and start seeing yourself as someone who is healthy. That's just who you are. You just need to figure out what that looks like for you. So this is a difference between saying, I'm going to the gym because I hate my body and I need to change it, versus I'm going to the gym because I respect my body enough to improve my strength and fitness. So you're still doing the same thing in the end. You're going to gym, but it's a completely different way of looking at it, of why you're doing it. When your mindset is all about shame and restriction and fixing yourself, every time you have a slip up, or what feels like a slip up, it feels like it's proof that you're broken. There's something wrong with you. But when you base it on self-care and respect for yourself, then slips aren't even a thing. Eating ice cream becomes a non-event because you just go back to your normal way of eating afterwards. You don't dwell on it and beat yourself up and try and burn the calories off the next day. It was just ice cream and you enjoyed it. Working on your mindset and getting that right, it feels harder than just saying you're going on a diet and trying to go through the motions. And that's why most people skip it. Downloading a meal plan is the easy part, but actually figuring out why you're emotionally eating, or challenging that voice in your head that says you're not allowed to eat that unless you've earned it, that's the hard part. And no one really wants to confront it. But if you don't deal with the mindset stuff, you'll just struggle your way through another diet. Maybe you'll lose some weight, but then you'll gain it back and you'll just repeat the cycle. The people who actually change long term aren't the ones with the most discipline. They're the ones who shifted how they think about food, how they're going to live their lives, how they're going to eat the majority of the time. And they think about health in a completely different way. So if you're ready to shift your mindset to a more positive one, here are a few tips. So first of all, you need to reframe from what can I cut out to lose weight to what can I add into my diet that will benefit my health? Or instead of I can't eat bread, try what foods actually give me energy, or what keeps me full and satisfied, and approach it from that point of view. And build eating patterns around living well now instead of, oh, I'll wait until later when I reach my goal. There was a study done in 2023 which found that people who focused on feeling healthier rather than getting smaller and losing the weight actually stuck with it longer and felt better mentally. So it's a much better way to think about it when you're going into changing your habits to improve your health and lose a bit of weight. And instead of focusing on the scales, because that can be mentally draining when you don't see the scale moving, but it's not giving you the whole picture. So think about how you're feeling, what your energy levels are, how you're going with being flexible with food, if that's shifting to a more positive way of eating, things like that will make you feel much better about yourself, because you'll notice that there is a shift when you're not focusing just on the weight. The scale doesn't tell you everything about your health. It doesn't tell you anything about your worth or whether you're doing okay. So ask yourself, do I have energy? Am I sleeping well? Can I have a slice of pizza without spiraling? Can I focus? Things like that are going to give you a much better indication of success. So if you're trying to get off the cycle of diet hopping, just be aware that when you first stop restricting yourself, you might go a bit wild with all the foods you've been avoiding, and that's completely normal and it will pass. But that's just your body actually checking that this famine is over that you've been on. It just wants to get all of these foods in just in case they're going to disappear again. And after you've stopped restricting them, it's okay to just let yourself have these previously forbidden foods regularly, because when you do that, they lose their power. But you have to actually let yourself have them and enjoy them, not just allow them while mentally beating yourself up about it. This one took me a long time to get my head around. I used to restrict myself a lot and then binge things like chips or lollies when they were in front of me. And after a while, I thought I had shifted my mindset around it, but I then found myself wanting to burn extra calories to make up for what I ate. So I thought I was doing the right thing, but it was still an unhealthy relationship with food. But once you make the switch to it not being a negative thing when you eat these kind of foods, it's like a massive weight is lifted, because it no longer has a hold on you, and it frees up so much mental space where you can dedicate to other things. So stick with it, and it can take some time, but you're pretty much trying to rewire your brain and how you think about food. And this can take about 6 to 12 months for your hunger signals to normalize after years of dieting. So be patient. If this is something you've been struggling with, maybe you want a bit of extra help, I've got a 12-week healthy habits program that's designed to help you improve your habits and lose weight sustainably. But more importantly, it covers the mindset work and how to actually make the shift to a place of lasting change. So I'll include the link in the show notes so you can check that out. But remember, if you want meaningful change, you need to learn the new skill and put in the work. There's really no other way to do it. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.